She agreed to a 6-month vow with a younger millionaire, thinking it was just a temporary arrangement. But that spring morning, when she first locked eyes with him across the sunlit Charleston courtyard, everything changed. One kiss, one whispered word, and suddenly, what was supposed to be a fleeting contract became a dangerous, thrilling game of hearts, secrets, and desire. Would she walk away before it was too late, or would he make her stay forever? Hi, my beautiful family. I have missed you all. Thank you so for sticking around with me. I truly appreciate your love and support. If you're already hooked in for today's story and ready to enjoy it, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one. And you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. Selena Ward had always trusted quiet mornings. They were her compass, a way to steady her hands before the day's rush of clients and deadlines. But on that late spring morning, standing outside the cedar-shingled inn she'd been hired to redesign for an anniversary gala, she felt something different, like the air itself was holding its breath. She didn't notice the man watching her from the gravel path until he spoke. "You're measuring that arch like it wronged you," he said. She glanced over her shoulder. A man in a slate blue jacket, sleeves pushed to his forearms, stood with one hand in his pocket. His hazel eyes caught the light like they had their own ideas about the day. Young, maybe early 30s. And handsome enough that she had to look back at the arch just to ground herself. "I'm just making sure it won't collapse on the guests," she said. "That'd be a bad review." His mouth tilted into a smile, not the practiced kind she saw on certain clients, but something almost boyish. "You must be Selena." She paused. "Have we met?" "Not officially." He stepped closer, offering his hand. "I'm Evan Caro. I own the inn." She blinked. The Evan Caro? The real estate investor who'd bought half the island's old buildings and restored them with an eye for history? The one investors whispered about because he seemed to print money while wearing denim jackets? He didn't look like someone who should be younger than her. But he was. She shook his hand, noting the cool steadiness of it. "I didn't realize the owner would stop by today." "I like seeing things before they become something new," he said. "Besides, I was curious about the woman everyone keeps talking about." Selena raised a brow. "Everyone? The caterer, the florist, the photographer. You've apparently got the whole island reorganizing its calendars." She laughed softly. She hadn't come here to impress anyone, just to do her job. Still, hearing it warmed her in a way she didn't expect. Evan studied the arch behind her. "You know, I'm hosting something here in a few months. Something private. I might need your help." "Another event?" she asked. "Not exactly." His eyes lingered on her, searching for something. "It's a vow agreement." She waited, but he didn't continue. "What kind of vow?" Evan exhaled, almost like he'd debated saying more. "It's a long story. Let's just say it's a 6-month arrangement. More symbolic than anything else. I'll need someone who understands elegance without pretending everything is perfect." "Interesting criteria," she said. "You fit them," he replied simply. Selena crossed her arms, half amused, half unsure. "You don't even know me." "I know enough." He said it without hesitation. And she wasn't sure why, but it felt like he meant it. A gull cried overhead. Wind moved through the cedar trees. And Selena realized she was staring at him longer than she should. "Look," Evan said, shifting slightly. "If you're free later, maybe we can talk through the idea. Over coffee. Or tea, if that's your style." Her heartbeat kicked. She didn't date much, not after her last long-term relationship ended with more exhaustion than heartbreak. Work was easier. Predictable. But something about this man pulled at her. Not just his confidence. Not just the way he seemed intrigued by her without trying to impress her. There was a softness beneath all that wealth and command. Still, younger men often came with their own storms. "Coffee," she said lightly. "I could do that." He gave a short nod, like he was trying not to smile too widely. "There's a spot on the harbor. I'll meet you there after you finish here." As he walked away, she caught a glimpse of keys in his hand, the kind attached to the remote for a private boat. Wealth wasn't subtle on him, but neither was kindness. An odd combination. Selina touched the arch again, steadying herself. A 6-month vow. Why had he brought that up? And why her? She shook her head. She didn't know him enough to start imagining answers. But she was curious, and curiosity wasn't a feeling she'd entertained in a long while. As she resumed her work, her mind drifted back to that look in his eyes. Like he was already choosing her for something he couldn't name yet. Would you walk into a 6-month vow with someone younger than you, if something about them felt fated? Tell me what you'd do. Selina closed her clipboard and walked toward the harbor cafe with that steady, purposeful pace she used when storms were coming and she wanted to pretend they weren't. The table by the window had salt on the glass edge and an honest view of tide lines and bobbing boats. Evan was already there, coat slung over the chair as if he'd been waiting for a reason to sit. "You made me wait," he said, standing to pull her chair out like an old-school gentleman who read mannerism as currency. "You made me curious," she shot back, settling in. She folded her hands around the coffee cup the way she folded blueprints. Neat, contained, usable. He laid a slim notebook on the table and, to her surprise, a printed page tucked inside. Not legalese, but a single-sentence offer written in his hand. 6 months. No labels. One vow. Live honestly with each other's days. Below it, a small line for signatures. Selina laughed before she could stop it. "You do realize this looks like a contract for a play?" "It's performative only if we let it be," Evan said. He pushed the cup toward her, not taking his eyes off her face. "I could have offered a ring and a chorus, but I wanted something less theatrical." She scanned the harbor. Children chased a gull. A woman walked a Labrador that ignored her owner and delighted itself in water. None of it told the truth of why Evan Caro would draft something like this. "Why me?" she asked. "Why a vow?" Evan picked at a sugar packet as if unwrapping a story. "Because I need a calendar that isn't made of transactions. I wanted 6 months where I can practice being steady. And I don't want someone who thinks I don't mean it just because I'm young." He said the word young without defensiveness. He said it like a fact that didn't diminish him, a fact that sometimes diminished other people's faith in him. Selina watched the way his jaw clenched while he chose his words. People with money often tried to speak around feelings. Evan spoke through them. She liked that. "You know," she said slowly, "I could say no. I could say this is too odd, or too performative." "Say whatever you want," he said. "I'll live with it. I promise." She leaned forward, curious now not just about the vow but about his edges. "What makes you think you can keep a promise that's more than PR?" He reached into his jacket and pulled out a tiny object, an old Polaroid, corners softened. He set it between them. The photo showed a small vineyard row, not the manicured kind found in magazines, but a row with a crooked post and a childhood dog asleep in the dirt. A child, maybe 9, squinted at the sun, hands full of grapes. There was a scrape on the child's knee. Selina's fingers hovered over the picture. He didn't tell her the scene was his. He let it sit like a gift with no demand. "Memory?" she asked. "Practice," Evan said. "When my father died, I kept the ledger and missed the life. All the properties, the plans, those were fine. But I didn't have a library of afternoons. I didn't know how to carry small things. I thought money would buy time, then realized it buys space. I want someone who will show me how to fill it." He looked at her then, not with the practiced gaze of an investor scanning opportunity, but with the awkward, honest hunger of someone admitting they'd been wrong. Selina felt the shift in him like a tide coming in, slow, inevitable. She had expected glossy demos, a private plane, a portfolio, the kind of talk that measures people in square footage. Instead, he brought a scraped knee and an admission. "So you want a tutor in ordinary life," she said. "If you'll take the title," he replied, plucking the sugar packet and folding it into a tiny ship. "There will be wine tastings in cellars I own, but there'll also be grocery runs at dawn. There will be gala dinners and there will be quiet Mondays when we both pretend the laundry isn't piling up." Selina imagined him carrying a grocery bag, grumbling about organic kale like someone learning a language. The image made her chest warm and clench at the same time. "Out of the box," she murmured. "A millionaire who wants to be less millionaire and more present." Evan smiled, a half-moon that creased one brow. "I pay for the boat. I can't pay for presents. That's where you come in." She felt a tug, an option she hadn't thought about, a partnership where money wasn't the answer to everything, where vows were rehearsals for better selves. It was risky. It was also, disturbingly, tempting. She lifted the pen and hovered over the signature line, then pulled back. Rules lived in her like furniture, some you rearranged and some you never touched. "Before I sign," she said, "tell me one thing you won't change about yourself for these 6 months." Evan's eyes sharpened. He looked like a man who'd practiced answers and then chosen to be honest. "I won't pretend I've got it all figured out." She scribbled her name with a slight, decisive line. "You won't pretend. That's fair." He signed beneath hers with a flourish that made it seem official and absurd at once. He folded the paper and slid it into his jacket. "We can start tomorrow," he said. "I'll show you the vineyard I bought because it reminded me of that Polaroid." Selina nodded, then surprised herself by saying, "Bring the dog." Evan blinked. "What dog?" "Your Polaroid dog," she said, smiling. "If you're revealing scraped knees, at least bring the creature that kept them company." He laughed, real and unguarded. It filled a small part of the harbor with warmth. Outside, a bell from the ferry chimed the hour. Inside, Selina felt the kind of small, impossible pivot you only notice after it's moved you. The moment you agree to something and, without realizing it, allow yourself to be surprised. Would you sign a playful vow like this? 6 months of intentional presence with someone wealthy but younger? Tell us one rule you'd add to the contract. Leave your rule below. Selina didn't expect Evan's vineyard to look like memory. She expected something polished, curated, touched a dozen times by contractors and designers. But when she followed his truck along the winding dirt road the next morning, she found a landscape that felt like an unfinished sentence. The vines were young, too young to carry fruit, and the soil looked recently turned. A small farmhouse stood at the top of a gentle rise, white paint peeling in places, the porch sagging slightly. It didn't match the wealth she knew he possessed. But maybe that was the point. Evan stepped out of his truck and waved her forward. "Before you say anything," he said, "yes, I bought it like this." "I wasn't going to say anything," she said, stepping onto the path, though she absolutely had questions. His hazel eyes flickered in amusement. "You were preparing a diplomatic critique. It's okay. You can say it." She let herself grin. "Fine. This place looks like it needs both prayer and scaffolding." His laugh carried across the vines, easy and full of breath. "That's why I asked you to see it. This." He swept his hand around the field, the house, the empty rows. "This is the real vow. The reason I wanted 6 months with someone steady." She looked at him, confused. "I'm rebuilding this place," he said. "From the house to the vines. And I've never done it with someone beside me who isn't on payroll." That clicked. Not the vow. Not the paper. Not the Polaroid. He didn't want romance built from candlelit dinners. He wanted to build something real from the ground up, with someone who wouldn't treat him like a headline or a wallet. Selina felt the weight of that, soft but undeniable. "And you think I'm steady?" "I think you're someone who won't let me lie to myself about what I'm doing," he said. "That's rarer than you think." She turned in a slow circle, taking in the property. The ocean wasn't far, she could smell salt on the air. A breeze pushed through the newborn vines like they were whispering secrets only Evan understood. "Where's the dog?" she asked, teasing. Evan scratched the back of his neck, actually looking sheepish. About that. She raised a brow. There was a dog, he said. But she passed a few years after that picture. I didn't bring it up yesterday because I didn't want to make things heavy. Her teasing smile faded into something gentler. You still carry her photo. Some memories stay because they're soft, he replied. Not because they hurt. That answer lodged somewhere in her chest. She walked toward the vineyard rows and ran her fingers lightly over the first vine. Young. Fragile. Hopeful. It's beautiful, she said. It will be, he corrected softly. He stood beside her, close enough that she could sense the warmth radiating through his jacket. Then she saw it, tucked behind the farmhouse porch, something that did not belong in a property a millionaire owned. A single suitcase. Light blue. Well used. Sitting upright as if waiting. Evan, she asked, pointing. Why does it look like someone's living here? He froze. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't panic. It was something quieter. Something he hadn't meant to show. That's mine, he said finally. Yours? You don't live in your main house. He shook his head. I stay here most nights. Selina stared at him. In the unfinished house? By yourself. He nodded. Why? He hesitated, and that hesitation was the crack in the vow he hadn't intended to reveal. Because the other houses feel too finished, he said. Too final. I don't like settling into places that don't match where I am. That's not a normal answer. I'm not trying to be normal, he replied quietly. She looked again at the suitcase, at the peeling paint, at the half-rebuilt porch. Suddenly, the vow made more sense than she wanted to admit. He didn't want companionship. He wanted a witness, a partner in building a different life. Evan, she said slowly, you're living in a house with no insulation. Technically, there's some insulation, he said. Is there a proper bed? Pause. Too long. Evan. It's a decent mattress, he offered hopefully. She pinched the bridge of her nose. Lord. He softened, almost shy. You can walk away, Selina. The vow wasn't meant to trap you. I just wanted someone who understands beginnings. Someone who won't run when things aren't polished. And you think I'm that person? I think you're the first person I've met who sees things before they become what they're supposed to be. That landed with heat. With truth. With an ache she wasn't ready for. Selina breathed in the vineyard air, fresh soil, young leaves, salt, possibility. Then she said the words that turned their meet-cute into the official inciting incident. Fine. Show me the house. But if you've been showering with a garden hose, I'm ripping up the vow. His grin nearly cracked the morning open. Deal. He led her toward the porch, and for the first time since they met, she saw it. The echo of a man who desperately wanted someone to build a life with, but had never learned how to invite someone in. This vow was going to change everything. For both of them. Would you trust someone enough to step inside the place where they hide their real life, before you even begin a relationship? Would you walk up those porch steps? Comment your answer. The farmhouse door creaked like it had opinions. Selina followed Evan inside, bracing herself for the chaos of half-finished renovations. She wasn't prepared for what she found instead. The living room was bare except for a single mattress on the floor, a lamp balanced on a stack of books, and a fireplace with soot-like fingerprints. But the strangest thing wasn't the mattress or the lamp. It was the table. A heavy oak table stood exactly in the center of the room, spotless, polished, and completely out of place, like someone had delivered it to the wrong life. Selina ran her fingers along the surface. Why do you have a table that belongs in a Charleston estate, in a house that barely has walls? Evan leaned against the doorway, watching her with that cautious honesty of his. That table is my one finished thing. She turned. Explain that. He stepped closer. I bought it a year ago. I thought if I put one permanent thing in a room, the rest would follow. But instead, the table just stayed, and everything else stayed undone. That's not how homes work, Evan. I know, he said softly. That's why you're standing here. She studied him, his uncertainty, his desire to be understood. Then she looked back at the table, at its glossy surface reflecting the morning light. What's in the drawer? She asked. His face went still. What drawer? The middle one. It's practically begging to be opened. There's nothing in it. Then you won't mind if I check. Selina. But she was already pulling it open. A stack of postcards. Dozens. Some written, some blank. All addressed to the same person. Evan Caro. Care of the house you'll finish someday. Carmel by the sea. She blinked. You've been writing to yourself? He exhaled. That sounds worse out loud. Explain. He rubbed the back of his neck. My therapist told me to write reminders of what I wanted my future to look like. Anchors. I kept mailing them here because I thought, eventually, I'd open one on a day when I actually felt settled. Selina lifted the top postcard. It read, You don't have to earn rest. The next, You're allowed to stay. Another, A life is something built, not bought. She felt something in her chest shift. You know, she said gently, this is the first time your wealth makes sense to me. He frowned. How? You're trying to build a life money can't manufacture. Their eyes held a moment too long, long enough to warm the space between them, long enough for the air to hum with something new and fragile. Selina closed the drawer and handed him the top postcard. You forgot this one. He smiled, small and grateful. Then her stomach growled. Loudly. She froze. Evan blinked at her. Was that? Nope, she said quickly. Old house noises. The house betrayed her immediately with silence. Evan chuckled. So, first date. She rolled her eyes. This isn't a date. This is an inspection, he offered. An intervention? Borderline rescue mission. He nodded. Perfect. Then I'll take you to lunch so you can recover from the trauma of my emotional architecture. She smirked. Where? He pointed out the window toward the distant cliffs. There's a small place overlooking the ocean. Locals only. No reservations. If the owner likes you, you get a table. So you know the owner? No, he said. But I have hope. The cafe was carved into the hillside like a secret. The sign above the door reads Seaglass, hand-painted and faded by weather. Inside, the walls glowed from warm sconces, and a musician tuned a cello in the corner. The owner, a woman in her 60s with silver braids and a gaze sharp enough to cut rope, looked them up and down like she was deciding whether they deserved to stay. You're new, she said to Evan. Yes, ma'am, he replied, almost boyish. You're nervous, she said. He coughed. A bit. She's not nervous. The owner pointed at Selina. She's evaluating the exits. Selina burst out laughing. I do that everywhere. Good, the woman said. You get the window seat. People who pay attention get the best views. As they sat down, Selina lifted a brow at Evan. You must be exhausted. From what? From not being the one in control all the time. He laughed, leaning back in his chair. You're not wrong. The server brought clam chowder and warm bread, and something in Evan shifted when he tasted it. His shoulders relaxed, his smile deepened. This reminds me of something, he said. Childhood, maybe. You didn't grow up with this kind of food, she guessed. No, he paused. I grew up with chefs. Right. Rich boy problems. Hey, he said, nudging her foot gently under the table. I'm working on being spoiled in moderation. Their eyes met again, warmer this time. Closer. Then Selina saw something she hadn't expected, Evan's hand trembling slightly as he picked up his spoon. You okay? She asked quietly. He froze. Most men would have covered it up, made a joke, changed the subject. But he didn't. I get overwhelmed, he admitted. Not by crowds, by possibility. When something feels like it could matter, I shake a little. Are you shaking because of me? She asked. He swallowed. Hard. Yeah. Her breath caught. Not because of the confession, but because it felt true. And that terrified her more than she wanted to admit. What would you do if someone admitted they were shaking because you mattered to them? Would that scare you, or pull you closer? Share your reaction below. Soraya stood at the foot of Trenton's renovated barn loft, her heart knocking harder than the spring rain on the roof. He'd invited her to see something important, which usually meant business. But the soft amber glow slipping through the cracks in the old wooden door said this wasn't business. She almost turned around. Almost. Then his voice drifted down the stairs. Are you coming up, or should I come get you? It wasn't flirtation. It wasn't pressure. It was awareness. And it set something loose inside her. She climbed. Every creaking step felt like a choice she hadn't planned to make when she'd signed that neat, emotionless 6-month contract. The loft opened around her like a secret. Warm lights. A projector. Long sheets of unrolled paper pinned on the walls. And right in the center, Trenton stood with his sleeves rolled, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a blueprint tube. I wanted you to see what I've been sketching, he said. For the community center. She blinked. You drew these. Nobody else sees them first. Only you. That single sentence softened the entire evening. She moved closer, scanning the walls. The drawings were raw, charcoal smudges, broad strokes, corrections layered over new ideas. A safe space for local teens. Artist studios. A culinary teaching kitchen. A garden walk designed to mirror the curves of the hillside. You're talented, she whispered. He didn't answer right away. He was studying her face, not the drawings. Soraya, when you walk into a room, ideas start happening. Colors make sense. Shapes line up. I think clearer. He exhaled, almost annoyed with himself. I didn't expect that. Her breath caught. This was the kind of confession a man made by accident. Trenton, we said we'd keep this clean. Boundaries. No complications. He nodded slowly. I remember. But he stepped closer. Not touching, just near enough that she felt the heat rising from his skin. His scent, cedar, rain, and something warm she hadn't smelled in a long time, pulled her into a memory she didn't want but didn't push away. Sometimes, he murmured, I wonder if we agreed to the wrong rules. Her pulse fluttered like a trapped bird. Don't, she whispered. Why not? Because you're younger. You're you. And I promised myself I wouldn't make room for another man's future. He let her words settle. Then he did something that undid her completely. He backed up. Gave her space. Respect so deep it shook her. I'm not trying to take your future, he said quietly. I'm trying to earn a place in it. She stared at him helplessly. Then the projector flickered on behind him, illuminating the wall with an image she wasn't expecting. A photo of them from the gala. She was laughing at something he'd said. He was looking at her like she was the only steady thing in the room. I didn't take this, he said quickly. A photographer sent it for the event recap. I liked it. It reminded me I haven't felt this alive in years. Her stomach flipped. Trenton. He swallowed. Just look at it. Look at how we fit in the frame. She did. Too well. Too easily. Too dangerously. She should have walked away then. Instead, she turned back to him. And he was already watching her with the kind of quiet longing a man didn't show unless the feelings had outgrown his self-control. She took one step toward him. He took one toward her. Another. Another. Until their breaths mingled. His voice dropped, barely audible. If I kiss you right now, am I crossing a line? Her answer was a whisper she didn't plan. Only if you stop. He cupped her jaw gently, slowly, so reverently it felt like he was asking permission with each inch. When his lips met hers, it wasn't hunger. It was clarity. Warm, certain, inevitable clarity. Her hands slid up his chest. His fingers threaded through hers like he'd been memorizing the moment for days. She felt his restraint, his carefulness, his desire to hold her without claiming what wasn't his. When they finally pulled apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "Tell me this is allowed," he breathed. She didn't trust her voice. She only nodded. But inside, she felt everything unravel. He kissed her again, softer this time, like a promise. A promise she wasn't sure she should accept, but already had. Would you have walked away from that moment, or stepped toward it like Soraya did? Tell me in the comments, what would you have done? Soraya woke the next morning still feeling the ghost of Trenton's lips, warm, steady, patient. She shouldn't have let it happen. She couldn't stop replaying it. But real life didn't wait for romance. Her office door chimed as she stepped inside her small Charleston workspace. Files. Invoices. Notes from brides panicking about table linens. But one envelope sat in the center of her desk like it had walked there on its own. The Veil Foundation seal. Her stomach tightened. This was from Trenton. She sat. Slid the envelope open. A single paper slipped out. At first she didn't understand it. And then she did. Her stomach dropped. It was the original 6-month vow contract, with a clause she'd never seen before. Emotional entanglements between parties are grounds for termination, financial penalties, and public withdrawal from all joint projects. Her breath stalled. Penalties? Public withdrawal? She flipped the page over. A sticky note in Trenton's handwriting was attached. Found this in my legal archive. My lawyer drafted a revision without telling me. I think you should read it before tonight. Soraya pressed her fingers to her forehead. This wasn't small. This was a landmine. If the board that oversaw Trenton's philanthropic arm learned they'd crossed a line, even before their community center proposal went public, it could destroy the funding. Destroy her company's credibility. Destroy both of them. A soft knock pulled her back. Her sister, Nia, stepped inside. You okay? You look like Mom right before she tells us to sit down. Soraya swallowed. I messed up. Nia folded her arms. With the millionaire? It's not like that. It's exactly like that. You get quiet when someone gets close. You get loud when someone gets too close. So which is he? Soraya hesitated, then told her everything. The vow. The partnership. The kiss. Nia let out a long, low whistle. Girl. You kissed a man who can buy a mountain. It wasn't about money. I know. Nia softened. That's why you're scared. Soraya looked down at the contract in her hands. I could ruin his entire non-profit expansion. And he doesn't even know the clause exists. Then tell him. What if he regrets last night? What if the kiss was temporary heat? Nia stepped closer, squeezing her hand. What did he do after the kiss? Soraya whispered. He held my face like I was important. Then let the man decide how important you are. Don't do it for him. Before Soraya could answer, her phone buzzed. Trenton, meet me at the waterfront cafe at 3? We need to talk about the board meeting. Her pulse raced. The cafe overlooked the harbor, boats rocking softly against their moorings. Trenton stood by the railing, jacket off, sleeves rolled, tension running through every line of him. When he saw her, his entire expression changed, warmth softening the edges he didn't even know he had. Hey, he said quietly. Hey. But when she held up the contract, the warmth vanished. I thought you should see it first, he murmured. My attorney said he updated the language for liability. I don't micromanage him. But maybe I should've. Soraya's breath shook. Trenton, if anyone finds out about us. He stepped back. Is that what you think happened? Us. His voice wasn't angry. It was hurt. I didn't mean. No. Say it. He pushed gently. Because last night didn't feel like a liability clause to me. She closed her eyes. I care about you. And that's the problem. He stared at her. Then. No, he said, shaking his head. That's not a problem. That's the point. Soraya. I've been trying not to fall for you since the first meeting. Her heart flipped painfully. That wasn't the twist she was ready for. But the clause. We'll fix it. How? I'll fire the attorney. She froze. You can't. Watch me. He took her hands. Warm. Certain. But then, someone approached. A woman in an expensive navy suit. Clipboard. Vale Foundation badge. Mr. Vale, we need to speak about the gala photograph circulating online. Soraya stiffened. The photo. The one from the projector? Trenton's jaw tightened. What happened? The woman glanced at Soraya briefly, politely, coldly. A donor circulated it in a private group. They're assuming Ms. Benton is romantically involved with you. It's starting conversations. Soraya felt her stomach drop. The contract. The kiss. Now this. The woman continued, the board is requesting clarity at tomorrow's meeting. Clarity. That single word felt like a trapdoor opening beneath them. The moment she left, Trenton turned back to Soraya, his expression sliding into something determined, fierce, and newly dangerous. They want clarity, he said. Yes, she whispered. Then I'm going to give them the clearest answer they've ever heard. Her breath hitched. What are you going to tell them? He squeezed her hand. The truth. If you were Soraya, would you risk your career and reputation for the possibility of real love? Tell me in the comments, would you choose the contract or the connection? The room felt colder than the ocean wind outside. Soraya sat in the back row of the Vale Foundation board chamber, her palms pressed against her knees to keep them from shaking. Trenton stood at the front of the table, alone, dark suit, no tie, determination carved into every angle of him. He didn't look like a man defending a rumor. He looked like a man about to burn a bridge he'd outgrown. Let's begin, said Chairwoman Alden, her voice clipped. Mr. Vale, we received reports of personal entanglements with Ms. Benton. We need clarity. Whispers rippled. Soraya's stomach twisted. Trenton didn't waver. I care about Soraya, he said. Just like that. No hesitation. No smoothing. No pretending. A collective inhale swept the room. But then Alden asked the worst possible question. Is this relationship interfering with the professional agreement you made with her? Or the vow contract? Soraya felt her heart seize. Trenton opened his mouth. But she stood up. Wait. Every head turned. She could barely breathe, but she forced the words out. Trenton hasn't compromised any agreement. I'm the one who crossed the line. I should have kept more distance. His head snapped toward her, hurt flashing across his face so fast she almost flinched. Don't do that, Soraya, he warned softly. He knew what she was doing. He knew she was trying to save him by sacrificing herself. He hated it. Alden adjusted her glasses. Ms. Benton, with all due respect, your presence isn't required for this clarification. But Soraya stepped closer. I'm giving it anyway. Her voice trembled, but her spine held. Trenton hired me for a partnership, not a romance. I let feelings get in the way. If anyone should be held responsible, it's me, not him. The room buzzed with murmurs. Trenton's jaw clenched violently. Soraya, stop. No, her voice broke. They'll use anything against you, your age, your money, your position. But they won't use me. His entire expression darkened, not with anger at her, but with the fury of a man watching someone he cared for willingly step into a fire. Alden raised a hand. Enough. The board will review the contract language and determine whether this partnership can continue. For now, Mr. Vale, you're advised to suspend any non-essential contact. Suspend contact. Suspend contact. The words sliced through Soraya like cold metal. Trenton took a step forward, voice low and sharp. I'm not suspending anything. Then you are in breach. Then I'm in breach. The room froze. Alden blinked. Mr. Vale, you understand what you're risking? He didn't look at her. He looked only at Soraya. Everything that matters. Yes. Her knees nearly gave out. The meeting adjourned in chaos. Whispers, shuffling folders, quick glances, quiet judgments. Trenton strode straight toward her. Why did you do that? He demanded the second they were alone in the hallway. Because I won't let them destroy everything you've built. I don't care about that. But you should. His breath left him in a sharp exhale. I care about you. Her eyes stung. Trenton, feelings don't fix reputations. Reputations don't build futures. She shook her head, stepping back. You don't understand. If your board loses confidence in you, they can freeze the entire expansion budget. They can strip your authority. They can. Let them. He stepped closer. I'm not losing you to a technicality. You don't get to decide that. The words came out louder than she meant. The silence that followed was thick, painful, final. He stared at her, hurt, disbelief, and something deeper flickering behind his eyes. You really think I'd regret caring about you? He asked quietly. She swallowed hard. I think one day you'll look back and see that my life is smaller than yours. That I don't fit the future waiting for you. He froze. Like she'd just slapped him. Soraya. I've spent years building things. Businesses. Foundations. Projects. But nothing has ever felt like a future until you walked into it. Her breath crushed inside her chest. But fear, deep-rooted, old, and stubborn, won. Then maybe, she whispered, you should build a future with someone who isn't a complication. He stepped back as if physically struck. His eyes, usually so steady, wavered. Okay, he said softly, voice cracking almost imperceptibly. If that's what you want. It's what makes sense. He nodded once. Slowly. Then he turned around and walked away. He didn't look back. Soraya leaned against the wall, covering her mouth to smother the sob that clawed up her throat. She'd protected his future. And in doing so, she'd broken something neither of them knew how to fix. Have you ever pushed someone away to protect them, even though it broke your own heart? Comment your thoughts. Do you think Soraya made the right choice? A storm swept over Charleston that evening, the kind that rattled shutters and made the river slap hard against the docks. Soraya sat curled on her sofa, blanket around her shoulders, staring at the half-finished tea she'd made and forgotten. She kept replaying the look on Trenton's face as he walked away. Hurt. Disbelief. Finality. Then her phone buzzed. A single text. Not from him. Unknown number. You think you're protecting him. You're not. Meet me at Vale Ridge tomorrow at 7. Come alone. The message froze her blood. She blocked the number instantly, but the name Vale Ridge sat in her chest like a weight. Why would someone be texting her about him? Who even knew their situation beyond the board? Thunder cracked overhead, shaking the windows. She knew one thing. This wasn't random. It was targeted. And if she ignored it, she'd never sleep. She barely slept that night. By dawn, the storm had thinned into a heavy mist, turning the world pale and blurred. She told no one, not Nia, not her assistants, because she didn't know how to explain a text from a stranger asking her to come to Trenton's estate, alone. She drove up the winding road toward Vale Ridge, heart hammering. The mist swirled thick around the vineyards. The house loomed, quiet. Too quiet. As she stepped out of the car, she froze. A shadow moved near the barn door. "Hello," she called cautiously. A figure stepped out, hood pulled low. "Miss Benton." Her voice almost failed. "Yes." The figure glanced around anxiously. "We don't have much time." "Who are you?" He lifted his hood. "Not a stranger. Trenton's attorney. The one who had slipped the emotional entanglement clause into their contract." Her pulse spiked. "You sent that text?" "Why?" "Because he's in danger," the attorney said quietly. "And you're the only one who can keep him from doing something reckless." Soraya's stomach twisted. "What do you mean, danger?" "From who?" He exhaled, rubbing his temples. "The board. They want him out. For good." Lightning shot through her chest. "What? Why?" "Because he's pushing back too publicly. They've decided he's unstable, too emotional, too unpredictable." Her mind raced. But then the attorney said the sentence that changed everything. "They're planning a silent vote to remove him tonight." Remove him. Strip him of his own foundation. Take his life's work. Soraya grabbed the barn railing for balance. "He doesn't know. He wouldn't listen if I told him. He only listens to you." Her heart twisted painfully. We're not speaking." "Then you must fix that. Because if he walks into that boardroom with no warning, he will lose everything." Soraya shook her head. "I can't make him trust me." "No," the man looked her dead in the eyes. "But you can save him." She stepped back. Fear, anger, love she had no business admitting. "But why tell me?" she whispered. "Why help him now?" The attorney swallowed. "Because the clause wasn't about liability." His voice lowered to a confession. "It was meant to keep him from falling in love with anyone. His father put it in place years ago. The board preserved it after the old man died." Soraya stared at him, stunned. "Why?" "To keep his emotions from affecting the foundation. They want control. And you broke the last rule they had over him." Her throat closed. "So this is my fault?" "No. This is their fear. Your existence in his life threatens them." He stepped closer. "If you walk away, they win." Soraya's breath trembled. "And if I don't?" "Then tonight, you may be the only thing standing between him and losing the future he's been building." A gull cried overhead, sharp and lonely. Soraya looked toward the house, toward the windows she once stood inside while he explained his dreams with that quiet, brilliant hope in his eyes. She wasn't supposed to care this much. She wasn't supposed to feel this deeply. But she did. And now the consequences were real. She inhaled shakily. "Where is he now?" The attorney hesitated. "He left before sunrise. He told the staff he was going to walk the ridge trail alone." Soraya stiffened. "The one with the broken overlook?" "Yes." Her heart dropped. The overlook had been damaged in a storm last fall. Loose rails, unstable planks, a steep drop into the ravine. "What if he's not thinking clearly?" the attorney murmured. "What if he's overwhelmed?" Soraya didn't wait for more. She ran to her car. "Where are you going?" the attorney yelled. "To find him." And under her breath, "To tell him the truth." The truth she should have told him the night she let fear win. Thunder growled overhead, echoing her heartbeat. The ridge trail swallowed her car in fog. Somewhere up there, alone, hurting, blindsided by bored betrayal, Trenton was walking. And Soraya didn't know if she'd reach him in time. If you received a message saying the person you loved was about to lose everything, and maybe themselves, would you go after them? Or stay away? Share your thoughts below. What would you do? Eden woke to the soft press of Reese's breath against the back of her neck, and the weight of the lie sitting on her chest like a stone. Last night had been beautiful. Too beautiful. He had kissed her like she was a forever he had already chosen. He had held her like a man finally at peace. And that was the problem. She wasn't his piece. She was his contract. A 6-month vow. A temporary wife. A woman who had agreed to be chosen. Not loved. She slid out of the bed quietly, careful not to disturb him. Reese didn't even stir. Exhaustion had pulled him into the heavy sleep of a man who had finally allowed himself to feel safe. But her safety was gone. Because she knew what she had to do. Because she knew who was coming. Because the past never leaves quietly. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. A message popped up. Your time is almost up. And he still doesn't know. Her blood froze. Her hands trembled. Her lungs cinched tight. She stared at those 10 words until her vision swam. They found me. No, they found us. Eden backed into the wall and slid down, knees weak as memory broke open like a wound. 3 years ago. A desperate choice. An agreement she never fully escaped. A debt she could never repay. She whispered to herself, I should have told him. I should have told him from the beginning. And then, a second message arrived. Check your email. We sent him the file. Eden's stomach dropped so fast she nearly gagged. They didn't just threaten her. They went for Reese. Eden launched to her feet and sprinted down the hallway toward Reese's office. Her breath came in jagged bursts. Her heart felt like it was cracking. Please, please, please don't let him have opened it yet. She shoved the office door open. And froze. Reese was standing in front of the monitor. His face pale. Jaw clenched. Eyes locked on the screen. He didn't look angry. He looked betrayed. Eden, he said quietly, without turning around. What is this? Her throat burned. Her legs nearly buckled. Reese. I can explain. He lifted a hand. Don't. Not yet. His voice was so steady that it terrified her more than if he'd screamed. He clicked the mouse once. The screen changed. Contracts. Payments. Her signature. Her involvement. Her debt. Her agreement to the 6-month vow. Not because she wanted the money, but because she had no choice. Because someone else owned the part of her past she had buried. Because she had been running. The truth was all there on the screen, neatly organized like a funeral display. Reese breathed out slowly. Eden. He finally turned toward her. Were you ever going to tell me? She stepped forward, tears already rising. Yes. I was. I just. Just what? His voice cracked. You thought I wouldn't want you if I knew the truth? Her silence said everything. Reese pressed a hand to his forehead, pacing once, twice, before stopping dead still. You weren't with me because you wanted to be, he whispered. You were with me because you had to be. No, she moved closer, desperate. Reese, I chose you. I stayed because I. He looked at her with eyes full of hurt so sharp it was almost physical. Do you love me? He asked. Eden froze. Because the answer was immediate. Yes. Yes, yes, she loved him more than she had ever loved anything. But speaking it now, when everything around them was burning, her voice caught in her throat. Reese saw the hesitation. And that was all it took. His face shuttered. The warmth drained from his eyes. Understood. Reese, please, you don't. It's fine. A lie that shattered on his tongue. You don't owe me anything. We made an agreement. 6 months. Nothing more. Her chest caved in. Don't do that, she whispered. Do what? Pretend you don't care. He let out a small, fractured laugh. That's the problem, Eden. I care too damn much. Then he pointed to the documents on the screen. But I can't compete with this. I can't love a woman who's terrified to tell me the truth. Before she could speak again, before she could breathe, his phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID. His expression darkened. Who is that? Eden whispered. Reese swallowed hard. It's the person who sent me the file. Her heart plummeted. They want to talk, he said. About you. He picked up the phone. And everything in Eden's world collapsed. Rain hammered against the windows of Vale Ridge. The storm had returned, as though the sky itself knew what was about to unfold. Reese stood in the center of his office, phone clutched to his ear, jaw tight, fingers white around the receiver. On the other end, a voice he had hoped he'd never hear. "You know exactly what we want," the voice said, calm and cruel. "We're calling in the debt. She belongs to us, legally, emotionally, financially. And you can't stop it." Reese's teeth ground together. "She's not a possession," he snapped. "She's not a contract. She's hers to choose. Do you hear me?" Silence. Then, "Choice doesn't matter. You have 24 hours before consequences." The line went dead. Reese slammed the phone down. The office seemed to shrink around him, walls closing in with the weight of control, fear, and anger. Then he saw her. Eden had entered quietly, soaked from the rain, eyes wide, heart racing. "Reese," she whispered. He turned to her, voice low, dangerous, but trembling. "They want to take you from me. They think I can't protect you." Her hands found his, gripping them tightly. "You don't need to. You're already doing it by being you." He stared at her, astonished. "Being me isn't enough," he said, voice breaking. "It is," she insisted. "You saved me the moment you kissed me. The moment you stayed when I tried to push you away. You've been fighting for me since day one, whether you realized it or not." He swallowed. Her words, simple yet raw, struck through every wall he had built. Then he did something reckless. He grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the door. "We're leaving," he said. "Where?" she asked, heart racing. "Somewhere they can't touch us. Somewhere only we exist. If they want to fight, we'll give them one, together." The car roared down the winding ridge trail, rain pelting them sideways, wind tearing at the edges of the world. Reese drove with a clarity he hadn't felt in years. The documents, the threats, the betrayal, they all blurred behind his single focus, Eden. Arriving at a private cove along the coast, he stopped. The sea foamed violently against the rocks below. He turned to her. "Look at me," he commanded softly. She did. "Every second I've spent trying to follow rules, trying not to fall, was a waste. I don't care about contracts, threats, or debts. I care about you. Nothing else matters." Then, in the middle of the storm, soaked to the bone, he dropped to one knee. Eden's breath hitched. "Eden Marie Benton," he said, voice trembling but certain. "This storm, this chaos, this life. I don't care. Will you be my partner, not for 6 months, not for a contract, but for life?" Her tears mixed with the rain. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." He lifted her into his arms, and for the first time, they moved not as individuals constrained by fear or obligation, but as one force against the world. The ocean crashed around them. Thunder rolled overhead. And for the first time, the storm felt like celebration. Back at Vale Ridge, the attorney, silent until now, spoke. "The board, they knew. They anticipated your feelings, your loyalty. They tested you both. But you just proved something they couldn't manipulate. Love can't be contracted. They'll withdraw the threat. Permanently." Reese and Eden looked at each other. No more secrets. No more rules. No more half-truths. Just them. And a future that belonged to no one but the two of them. If love requires risking everything, your reputation, your security, your heart, would you take that leap? Share below if you think Reese and Eden made the right choice. The morning after the storm, the world seemed reborn. Sunlight broke through lingering clouds over the cliffs at Vale Ridge. Waves sparkled gold, washing away the darkness of the previous night. Eden stood at the cliff edge, looking at the horizon, feeling the wind whip through her hair. Every heartbeat echoed with the memory of Reese's declaration. The wet clothes, the tremble in his voice, the certainty in his eyes. Footsteps on the gravel made her turn. There he was. Reese. Still dripping from the night storm, but smiling, the kind of smile that melted every fear she'd ever carried. "You're here," she whispered, though it was more a relief than a statement. "Where else would I be?" he asked, his voice low, warm. "I didn't save you last night just to walk away." She blinked away tears, overwhelmed by the enormity of the moment. I thought I'd lost you." He stepped closer, brushing a strand of rain-matted hair from her face. "You almost did. And I almost let that happen too. But then I remembered something. We're stronger together." The wind carried their laughter, a mix of joy and disbelief. They walked along the cliff path, hands brushing, hesitant at first, then finally entwined. "I was afraid," Eden admitted. "Afraid my past would ruin everything we could have." Reese stopped. He cupped her face. "And I was afraid I'd lose you before I even got the chance to fight for you." Her chest ached with the weight of that honesty. "But now?" she asked softly. "Now," he said, pulling her close, "we're unstoppable. Nothing can touch us if we face it together." Her heart swelled. For the first time, she realized fear didn't define her. Love did. Trust did. And this man, this force of nature, would carry her through it. They paused at the cliff's edge. The ocean roared below, vast, eternal, unstoppable. And it mirrored them perfectly. Reese leaned down, whispering against her lips, "Eden Benton, will you let me love you freely? Not because of contracts or obligations, but because I can't imagine my life without you." Tears slid down her cheeks. "Yes. Always yes." They kissed, the kind of kiss that didn't just ignite passion, it erased every doubt, every fear, every lie that had ever tried to come between them. Back at Vale Ridge, the attorney, the staff, and even the board watched as Reese and Eden emerged hand in hand. No fear. No hesitation. Just love. And as they stood there, facing the world, Reese took out a small velvet box. "I don't want to wait for ceremonies or contracts," he said. "I want to make this official. You, me, forever." Eden gasped as he opened it to reveal a simple, elegant ring. "Will you marry me?" he asked. Her answer was immediate. Yes. The storm had passed, leaving only sunlight, wind, and the promise of a lifetime together. Have you ever had to fight for love against all odds? Comment below, would you have taken the leap like Eden did? Vale Ridge was transformed. Candles flickered along the veranda. White petals lined the stone walkway. Friends, family, and even a few board members stood discreetly, witnessing the culmination of a journey no one could have scripted. Eden appeared, radiant in a simple, flowing dress, hair loosely pinned. She looked at Reese, who had never looked more certain, more alive, more hers. The wind carried the scent of the ocean, mingling with fresh blooms, carrying the energy of triumph, of survival, of love. Reese stepped forward, took her hands and whispered, "You've given me everything, even when you thought you couldn't. And I promise you, Eden Benton, I will spend every day proving that love is stronger than fear, stronger than contracts, stronger than storms." Eden's tears glistened in the candlelight. "And I promise to fight beside you, to laugh with you, cry with you, and live every day knowing this, knowing us, can't be taken away." A simple officiant stood before them. No unnecessary words, no extravagant promises. Just truth. They exchanged vows, words chosen from the heart, spoken with trembling voices, tears streaming down cheeks. "I vow to love you," Reese said, "without limits, without fear, without contracts, forever." "I vow to trust you," Eden replied, "to face life's storms with you, to choose you every day, as my partner, my equal, my love." Rings slipped onto fingers. And when they kissed for the final time as a couple, it wasn't just a kiss. It was a declaration. A victory. A lifetime promise. Months later, Vale Ridge flourished. The community center they dreamed of opened, designed with Eden's eye and Reese's vision. Local families celebrated, Children laughed, and every corner reflected love and partnership. Eden and Reese walked hand in hand along the cliff trail, now rebuilt, safe, sturdy. "Can you believe we almost let fear win?" Eden asked, smiling. Reese squeezed her hand. "I can believe it. But I'm glad we didn't. Because now, this is ours. Forever." The wind carried their laughter into the horizon. And for the first time, nothing could touch them. Do you believe true love is worth fighting for, even against fear, contracts, and the past? Comment below. Would you fight for your forever like Eden and Reese did?
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.